If you want to maintain sustainable wealth or any type of savings, then privacy is incredibly important. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. Again today, I was asked to waive the rights of a minor child so that they may be photographed and used for promotion in a summer program. Now, I know you've seen this. It's where the summer program has a photography disclaimer or disclosure that your child may be photographed and used in advertising campaigns to promote the program. Most of these agreements are wide open. And I said specifically to the individual, my child will not be photographed for any reason or used in promotions. And I'm just not going to sign it. And they were confused. So what I figured I'd share with you today in the podcast is 3 very important cybersecurity concerns that you must be aware of to protect your children's wealth and to protect your children's best interest. Number 1 is the FBI has posted several notices. YouTube, social media platforms like Facebook have changed their policies when it comes to the photography of minor children. Now, this is done for a couple very important reasons, but the FBI warning in particular was about human trafficking and the collection of information about children. So online, there are privacy protections for children that have been around for years. They were around for years long before the internet even was a popular or regular thing that everybody used. And particularly what happens is that children are targeted online for human trafficking because the situations around the photograph. So if there's an embarrassing photograph of a child online, it could be an initial first contact. It can be a talking point to connect. But also if the parent's profile has their city and state, using the parent's full name and the city and state in which the parents live, you can actually find where the child is. So human traffickers are actually not, they're smart and intelligent people that are using information in the wrong way, and they're lazy, just like everybody else. So who do you want to kidnap? The kid who's having identity problems, embarrassing pictures posted about them, and you can find them easily, or somebody that you've got to go find out in the population? Well, it's easier to find the ones you can find. The next thing is the privacy in the sense of their credit history. Now, you might not be thinking a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old has a credit score, and they don't have a credit score. However, in 3 to 5 years, they will have a credit score, and they're in the prime market for credit cards. So your kid right now is in middle school, and they get photographed, and the people who go out and do this research to find people to target for identity theft, they're going to look for that more affluent family. You don't find poor people's kids on social media. Now, they might be on social media through their cell phones or other things like that, but there aren't photographs attached to a parent's profile that the parent can then be identified by their city and state as being an affluent city or state, and then go and farm the information like parent's maiden name. That could be mapped through relationships, farming out situations where you're seeing like a house in the background. Does this kid look like they're in a nice neighborhood? Is this a photograph of the kid at the country club? That significantly helps narrow down the focus for an identity theft individual to find prime candidates so that they can run larger transactions and have a less likelihood of getting caught. So by running fewer transactions at a bigger dollar amount, there are fewer markers in the system for these individuals to get caught. So what they do is they harvest your child's information. They harvest your information, put it in a database, bundle it all up, sell it on the dark web, and then somebody in 3 to 5 years activates that information. While your kid's off at college, suddenly they have 4 or 5 credit cards in their name, and they're in debt. And they didn't even know they had credit cards. And then it becomes an argument between parent and child. The kid might be even embarrassed that this has happened and not even tell the parents. And then the parents bail them out. And in the long term, the thief gets away with it because the parents don't want that embarrassment. Your kid graduating college has a 400 credit score. How will they get a job? Well, let's help them get it straight. We don't know how this happened. Also, a lot of these lists are sold many times over. So it could be 50 people nixed their card before graduation, and now they're stuck with $50,000 in debt and a poor credit score, and they can't get a job. See, these are factors. The psychology of somebody who's stealing is they want victimless crimes. And I've worked a lot with cybersecurity And somebody who's breaking into a corporation, they don't see that as a crime that's going to hurt people because of those evil corporations. If they're stealing from rich people, they feel like they're actually doing something noble. They're stealing from the rich and redistributing it to the poor. And then when it comes to credit card fraud, many times the thief believes that it's a victimless crime because a lot of times the credit card company is going to cover it with insurance if it's a direct owned card. If it's a card that is magically created through this information they scraped off the websites and photo shares, then it is something that seems victimless as well. Now, this isn't anything new. So back in the day, what would happen is they would buy yearbooks, used yearbooks, and they would try to find yearbooks about a few years ago of people who are going to be 18 to 20 now. So this is kind of the profile. And so they would buy the old yearbook and they'd scour through the yearbook, looking at pictures, trying to find people's names, and then they'd go to a telephone book and look things up. That was extremely difficult. Now today, it's extremely easy. So if you want to protect your child's credit score, you want to protect your child's financial future, their ability to get a job, then you must decline other people pimping out your children's picture as part of their promotional campaigns. Now, there's this, I told you I'd give you a couple factors. Here's another side to it. When I was in elementary school, there were two kids who were actually professional models. They were elementary school kids who got photographed for a living, and they would opt out of any kind of classroom photograph. Now, back then, there wasn't the waiver that, somebody might take a picture of a group of kids. There weren't cameras in the classroom. God forbid somebody have a camera in the classroom. They just wouldn't, technology-wise, it wouldn't happen. But basically, the only photographs of these kids was the school photograph and then a special event photograph here and there. But ultimately, they weren't included in the group shot or the sports photos or other things because their image was actually a licensed item. They owned the license to their image. This is my biggest thing about signing away the rights of my child's image, is that I believe the child should own their own image. They should own who they are, and they should own the personal property associated with derivative images of them. If someone takes a photograph of them, it shouldn't be given to a social media platform where the social media platform now owns it. It shouldn't be in a case where someone else owns the image and they put it into a stock library and eventually sell it. That child should not only own their own image, but have full rights and control over it. But in this case, these two children were actually in national media campaigns, and they would opt out of photographs because the company in which we're paying them royalties for their image didn't want them showing up in an awkward situation. So what I'm describing here isn't new. It isn't an unbased concern that you should have about your children. It's part of that financial and parental responsibility to protect your children's interests. You don't want your child to be photographed by people where you don't have the control over the photograph. You want to know if somebody's stalking, if you're a high profile individual. Many of my clients are what you call high affluent. You want to know if somebody's paparazzi-ing your child. You want to know if there's a photograph of your child at a party somewhere and the kid has enough sense to get out of the picture frame, to not be standing there with people drinking and it show up on their social media profile. And next thing you know, when they're on a job interview and the hiring manager goes through the profile and sees that they're drunk in half the pictures, that might be 5 pictures over a 10-year period. But those are the 5 pictures that hiring manager sees. That limits the opportunity of your child. So there's a number of factors here. And I have parents come to me and say, look, the kid's just going to a science camp. Come on. If he's seen photographed at a science camp, that's actually good. Well, yes or no, but you have signed the rights of your child's image away. You haven't gained anything for it. The organization can use it in a promotion. One thing I find in small towns is they want photographs of the affluent families. And by the way, I'm not in this list. I'm not an influencer. Nobody even knows what the hell I do. But ultimately, they want that Vallandigham or that family name that everybody recognizes. Photograph so that they can show that their program is worth coming to. And very often they have that part of the promotion. And then I hear the parents say, "Oh, my kid's featured in this brochure," and they're like all excited about it. But I say, well, did you get any royalties for that? Because they could just use stock photos. And stock photos are just as good if you need only a picture of a kid. But if they got a picture of your kid for a particular reason, then I'd be concerned. But it goes on. The point is cybersecurity. The FBI has been warning for years about information of minor children can be used in the future for identity theft, and information about minor children has been used for human trafficking. The other issue is that who really owns the rights to your child's image? Family photos is one thing, but a family photo, do you really have the right to put that kid's photograph in harm's way, to post it on social media where everybody can see it? Now, if you're just sending it around a family, that's one thing. But are you establishing that child's self-image in a way to say, look, kid, you own the rights to your photo. You can determine if it gets wide distribution or narrow distribution. And then in the case of, and we didn't really talk about this a whole lot, but it's a very important issue, as how kids see themselves. Maybe the kids feeling uncomfortable about the way they look, and now their photograph is all over the place, and kids at school are making fun of it. There's unintended consequences to it. How do we handle that? And finally, how do we make sure that there's less information out in the public about who we are, what we're doing, and the aspects of our family in order to prevent an uncomfortable situation in the future, such as your kid goes off to college and suddenly they don't qualify for anything. They can't even get a job because somebody has ran up credit cards in their name they didn't even know they had. So it's a touchy topic. It confuses the hell out of most people. And I would even argue that it's something that all levels of society should be concerned about. Because if you're taking pictures of poor kids, and they give them if you respect their rights to their image, and you have to pay them a royalty in order to photograph and use that image for promotional purposes, then they wouldn't be poor kids anymore. They would have an income stream. Ultimately, you got to stand firm on this, and you have to go through and look at the pictures, because again, unintended disclosure of private information and relationship information, unintended disclosure of information that could be used to identity theft your kid or yourself, and unintended disclosure of things that could put your kid at harm. All important factors to consider when they ask you to sign away your child's rights to their image. I'm Justin Hitt with Sustainable Wealth Secrets. I know we hit some unusual perspectives when it comes to retaining the wealth that we have and getting it to grow larger and faster, and building up the wealth of family and the wealth of relationships that secures our positions as well. If you have questions about this or anything else I've covered, contact me at www.sustainablewealthsecrets.com. Again, I'm Justin Hitt, helping you transform your earnings into net worth and wealth that stays with you for generations. Thanks for listening.